topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Churchill said, "Those who fail to learn from history are condemned to repeat it." Kevin Hallinan believes that certainly applies to business. Welcome to Winning Business Radio, here at W4CY Radio. That's W4CY.com. And now, your host, Kevin Hallinan.
Thanks, everybody, for joining in again today. I am Kevin Hallinan, and welcome back to Winning Business TV and Radio on W4CY.com. We're streaming live on Talk4TV.com, and of course, we're on Facebook, and that's at Winning Business Radio. And of course, we're available after the live show in podcast form on tons of platforms. Wherever you go for your podcast content, we're there. YouTube, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple, again, all of those platforms and more. The mission of Winning Business Radio and TV, excuse me, as regular listeners and viewers know, is to offer insights and advice to help people avoid the mistakes of others, right? To learn best practices. Those are the how-tos, the what-tos, the what-not-tos, and to be challenged and hopefully to be inspired by the successes of others. Those are consultants, authors, coaches, advisors, business owners, founders, entrepreneurs, people with expertise. But, you know, virtually every successful person I've ever had a chance to talk to has had some form of failure in their lives and careers. I say it every week, while we all have to get our knees skinned once in a while, I'm driven to keep those scrapes from needing major surgery. Let's endeavor to learn from history so we don't repeat it. I've spent the better part of my career equipping businesses to grow, from solopreneurs to small to medium-sized companies, all the way up to the Fortune 50. And I've seen a lot of those companies up close and personal, and a lot of them win. And to varying degrees, I've seen some fail. I've had the opportunity to rub elbows with some of the highest performing people around and with some people who probably should have found other professions, right? So in my own businesses, I've had lots of success, but some failures too. And I like to think I've learned a lot of those lessons from experience. So you're going to hear from me, some opinions and insights, et cetera, but you're definitely going to hear from really interesting and cool guys like today's guest. His name is George Rohlfing, owner of BTI, Brookline Transportation Company, Incorporated. It's a family-owned and operated residential and commercial moving company headquartered in Hanover, Massachusetts. Here's his bio. George cut his teeth in the moving business with Larkin Movers and Maple Movers in the late 1970s, starting out as a driver, van operator, and running moving crews within 3 weeks. In the early 1980s, he bought the BTI. Under his mentorship, the company became a Mayflower franchise and expanded its offerings beyond residential and commercial moves. Some of those specialty moves include lab moves, computer and electronics moves, trade show moves, furniture and fixture assembly and disassembly, customized creating, storaging, and more. To meet the demands of the growing life science and medical community in Greater Boston and beyond, interestingly enough, George created LabMovers.com as a specialty division of his company. With that specialization in plug-in transport, LabMovers has moved the lab of Nobel Prize winner Jack, hope I say this correctly, Dr. Jack Szostak, formerly of Harvard Medical, now at the University of Chicago. Other lab relocations include a move of rare butterfly collection from UC Berkeley to the Marine Biological Lab, some of you know, in Woods Hole, Mass. Very cool place. And the relocation of a wind tunnel from Harvard to UC Davis. George is a longtime member of the Mass Movers Association, serving as its president from 2012 to 2014. He's certified by the American Moving and Storage Association as an office and industrial consultant and as a moving consultant. George has numerous awards, including BBB's 2016 award winner, the $1 Million Plus Award in 2016, the Mayflower Excellence in Sales Award, Outstanding Service Award, and BTI is a proud member of the Mass Biotech Council. Married, George continues the tradition of BTI being a family-owned and operated business, as his wife Karen and sons Jared and his wife Michaela and Jordan all work in the business. George, welcome to Winning Business Radio.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Thank you for the invite.
You're welcome. I appreciate you taking the time to be here. Tell us about the family first. Karen, tell us a bit about Karen and also about her involvement in the business.
Okay. My wife and I met when we were, in high school,
Oh,
and
love that.
we've been together for that long. So prior to
20
getting married,
years then.
yeah, 20 years.
Yeah.
It's only been 20 years, right, Karen? So we dated for 6 years prior
Yeah.
to getting married, and we've been married since 1979, and her and I we work together in our family, and we work together in our business.
What is her role? What jobs does she perform within the company?
Karen's the office manager at the
Mhm.
company. She manages the office. She does the accounts payable, accounts receivable, billing, all of those types of things that happen every day behind the scenes that have to get done to help our customers with their wing needs.
Excellent. And Jared and his wife, Michaela?
Yeah, Jared has been with the company, since he's 18 years old.
Mm.
He's been working at the company. He started as a mover driver like myself, and he worked in the warehouse for a while. He's learned the business from the ground up, so he can understand all facets from, operations, and now he does sales and he does business development. He's also a special project specialist when it comes to handling lab and science relocation. So he's got the goods when it comes to the specialty lab moves, if you will. He's also certified in handling chemical packing and things of that nature. So he's got some background there.
We're going to talk about a lot of those specialties. I'm very interested to hear that.
Yeah, his wife Michaela came to us from Trader Joe's. She was a manager at Trader Joe's for quite a long time, working at many of the Trader Joe's stores. And she's working in the out-facing public side of the move management side of the moves. So she's part of the team that makes sure that everything happens the way it's supposed to happen. She's behind the scenes a lot of times, handling the emails and the correspondence and making sure that everything ticks off the way it's supposed to in a move that's supposed to happen.
Oh, that's really good. And Jordan?
And Jordan, he does sales and operations. So Jordan, like Jared, his brother, he had to start from the ground up and working in the warehouse and driving the trucks and managing the crews and understanding how the jobs work. Everybody in our company has to go out on a move job to understand what a client goes through. So they start even from the process of going out on sales calls to understand what the client's expectations are. So I really try to get the team involved. So the operations crew goes out with the salespeople, and the salespeople go out with the operation crews. So they have a good understanding of what the expectations are from the customer side of things.
That's fantastic. How big is your team?
Our team goes from anywhere from, a 5-man team to a 40-man team, depending on the size of the project.
Yeah.
And of course, being part of the Mayflower system, we can reach out and combine all of our assets in the Mayflower system for as much as a client would need.
All right. I want to ask a little bit more about your background. Where'd you grow up?
So I grew up in Jamaica Plain, which is part of Boston. And, it was a great place to grow up around the city and Jamaica Pond and, up and down Center Street and in town Boston on the Green Line and the Orange Line. So that's my background when it comes to growing up in the city.
So a little inside baseball. I grew up in Medfield in the suburbs, but I live now in Rosendale. Been here for almost 40 years. So I think we probably know some of the same people. We'll talk later.
We probably do, yes.
Yeah. In fact, you went to Boston English High School.
I did go to Boston English, yes. I did go to Boston English during the 70s. It was an interesting time back then. It was the first year of busing in the city, so I have that experience. But it was I met some great people at Boston English, and the building where I went to high school now is a research lab for Harvard Medical.
I understand that. Yeah.
Right across from Boston English. I mean, right across from Boston Latin, our nemesis. when it comes to sports.
That's right. Which, by the way, I love saying this because it's pretty cool to me. I coached Pop Warner football, youth football for many, many years. My younger son went to Boston Latin and played football. So I've been to many, not just his years, but many Latin English games. It's the oldest, here it is, audience. It's the oldest high school football rivalry. Yeah, I can say that, rivalry in the nation. 1635 was Latin school, and English had to be right around that same time.
Around the same time, yeah.
The rivalry is 100-something years old, right?
Yeah, but unfortunately, the winning percentage for Boston English is a little bit lower than the Boston Latin.
Well, I was going to let you say that. I was going to let you
Yeah.
say that because I'm always on the Latin side. But it's a cool game, and it's played, as you know, at Harvard Stadium.
That's right.
Yeah. So, what did you studied? Really prepared for business at English school. Yeah,
I did study business at Boston English, and that's what my primary concern was. And coming out of college, I was, in high school and going into college, I ended up working for a moving company in Jamaica Plain.
Tell us, how did that happen?
It was on a whim, really. It's like a lot of people in business, they somehow, get introduced to something and they fall in love with the industry, and they get, I would say they get hooked, and you can't get out. You just get pulled in and you can never get out of it. And that's what happened to me. I fell in love with helping people. And when you're in the moving business, it's a lot about helping people get on their journey to their new space. And that's what it is. It's a journey from start to finish. And it can sometimes be a wild journey, but a journey nonetheless.
Well, did you have any jobs, like youth jobs, any jobs prior to that professional job coming out of college in moving? So what did you do before moving is my question, really.
I did a lot of different jobs when I was a kid. Even when it was fashionable, I shined shoes.
Oh yeah.
I was a paper boy, and we did what was called hawking papers off the back of the American truck. We would hawk the papers off of the truck and, bring them to local drinking establishments, if you will, and sell the papers at the drinking establishments.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I did. And there was a youth activities place. I worked for the city of Boston for a while doing BNBL basketball, which is a summer basketball league in the city of Boston. And I was part of the Jamaica Plain startup to get that going.
That's cool.
And then I worked for the Registry of Motor Vehicles for a short time.
You're the guy.
Yeah, I'm the guy. I was in the cancellation department of the insurance section of the registry.
Oh man.
So if your insurance got canceled, I only sent out the message.
Yeah.
I was only the messenger. I didn't cancel your insurance.
Well, so you delivered papers. You were only the messenger, and you mailed the statements or the notifications. So still, again, the messenger, right?
Still the messenger. Yes. Yeah.
All right, we're going to take our first break, George, right here. Everybody, we'll be back in about 1 minute with George Rohlfing of Brookline Transportation.
You're listening to Winning Business Radio with Kevin Hallinan on W4CY Radio. That's W4CY.com. Don't go away. More helpful information is coming right up, right here on Winning Business Radio.
Have you ever dreamt of being on the radio? Well, now is your chance. Be a radio show guest on the #1 ranked internet radio station and promote you and your business for free. Yes, you heard it, free. Business advertising right here on W4CY.com. Call 561-506-4031 now to get booked on one of our shows. That's 561-506-4031. Get your free advertising now.
And now back to Winning Business Radio with Kevin Hallinan, presenting exciting topics and expert guests with one goal in mind: to help you succeed in business. Here once again is Kevin Hallinan.
We're back with George Rohlfing, president, owner of Brookline Transportation Company, moving company. So what was it about moving that you, in your words, kind of fell in love with?
I think it was the feeling of the completion of a project for a customer, and the feeling that I got from the customers that they were so, they were so caring and kind to me when I was doing moves for them, and they would always, comment on how well I did the move and how caring I was with their things. And it was that part of that feeling that you get when you've completed something, that you completed a project, and you feel like you've done something for somebody. That's really what, gravitated me toward being hooked in the moving industry. And there's a lot of that happens in our industry. People they literally get hooked and they stay here for life.
So you better be hooked because you bought the company.
Yes,
So tell me about that decision. How did you know you wanted to do that? When did you know? And I mean, you were young from the look of it.
Yeah, I was, probably 22, 21. I was
Wow.
21 going on 22.
Yeah.
I just gotten married. My oldest son, Jared, was born in December. The following year, I happened to be reading the Brookline tab.
Oh, yeah. I remember that paper.
And saw that a moving
That still might be around.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
Plug for the tab.
Yep.
So I ended up looking at the company. I had already earned enough money to buy a company working for the other companies that I worked for. I saved some money, and I ended up thinking, hey, I should do this. And when I bought the company, I only had a radius because movers are regulated, household goods movers are regulated. And I only had a radius.
That's state law?
By state law, yes.
Yeah, okay.
At the time, we were heavily regulated. I could only go 15 miles from Town Hall, Brookline.
Wow.
That was the radius I could go to. And the Department of Public Utilities is the regulatory agency that regulates residential household goods movers. So then I applied for a 50-mile radius from Town Hall, Brookline. So I was allowed that. And you have to go for a hearing. There has to be public needs and necessity. You have to prove that you can do the work that you say you're going to do. You have to publish a tariff. So the rates and everything are published with the Department of Public Utilities. And then finally, I filed for my entire state of Massachusetts service area to do that. And I was awarded that in 1989. So from the time I bought the company until 1989, we were, limited, if you will, in some degree where we could go. That's different today. The times have changed. In 1980, movers were deregulated by President Reagan. He the Interstate Commerce Commission was shut down, and movers were basically, it's a free for all out there. So you never know what's going to happen. But the good movers are still complying with the regulations. So there's there are still regulated movers out there, and Congress has come back to re-regulate a little bit, but not as much as it was.
Yeah, I know you've spent a lot of time talking about ethics and moving and within your associations and whatnot. There had been, I think you said, kind of a Wild West. There had been a need for regulation and a need for better behavior, and I know you've personally spent a lot of time on that.
I have, and it's still a Wild West out there to some degree when it comes to the internet movers that are unregulated and unethical in the way that they do things.
Well, not with Brookline, and
absolutely.
I know that's a plug, but that's what I've come to understand through mutual people that we know. So,
yes.
All right, tell me a bit more. I'm just trying to put your contact info so everybody can see how to reach out to you. There we go. Got that right. Juan will share that. When you took over, you were young, experienced in moving, probably not experienced in business yet. What were some of the changes you made when you took over?
Well, one of the things I ended up doing through an acquaintance who was an accountant, they introduced me to the Small Business Development Center at Boston College,
Oh, yeah.
which was part of the SBA. And I was able to get some more training when it came to, understanding the business aspects of growing, understanding, some of the tools and things that I needed to get to run my business, not just being a mover in a moving truck anymore. And then, of course, I joined the Massachusetts Movers Association, and I was, successful in, once I joined there, the people that I work with, including competitors that were members of the association, were very helpful in pointing me in the right direction and doing some of the things that they did to help me understand the moving business, the insurance behind it, all the regulations that came with filing, rates and tariffs and applying for, additional space, if you will, to extend my radius from Town Hall Brookline to, the things that we do now. And, some of my best acquaintances and friends are part of that group of movers that helped me originally to help understand how to grow my company.
Operations, best practices, accounting,
all of the above.
financing,
financing, back office stuff. And then, excuse me, I got introduced to Mayflower.
Oh, yeah. I was going to ask about that. How did you get introduced?
It was through the association, as being part of the Massachusetts Movers Association. Another agent, and you may or may not know that United Van Lines and Mayflower Transit are part of the same parent organization. So our parent organization is Unigroup. So a United Van Lines agent, Conlin Moving and Storage, introduced me to the team at Mayflower, who recruited me to become a Mayflower agent.
And so what is the benefit of that, and what are you required to do?
One of the things you're required to do is to become a stockholding agent in the company. They want to make sure that you have some skin in the game to make sure that you're all in when it comes to doing the moves for Mayflower customers, if you will. You do get the benefits of the marketing team at Mayflower. You get the benefits of the back office claims team, the back office registrations and driver recruitment and background checks for team members. That's all consolidated amongst all the Mayflower and United agents throughout the country, into Canada, into Europe. So there's that connection to all of those parts of the Mayflower system that you get as well. And then, of course, Mayflower being the number one recognized moving brand in America, it helps make the phone ring as well. People that I've spoken to over the years, their parents used Mayflower in the 1950s and 60s and before that. So that helps a lot as well.
I was going to say, that's too early for you to have moved them, but so in 89, you became an office moving expert. What's behind that designation?
So
because up till now we've touched on, but not talked about, we will shortly, residential moves, right?
Residential moves, that's correct. That was the residential moves. To become an office moving expert, it takes more than just going to somebody's office and learning how to move, just going in there, moving their stuff. It's a different type of process. You have to understand the complexities of the buildings. You have to work with the teams at both origin and destination, the facilities folks, understanding the height of the truck that can fit.
You might need some permitting it on occasion.
There are permits, especially in Cambridge on a Sunday. You have to meet noise compliance, and they inspect you as you're working at a loading dock in certain areas. You have to meet those compliance issues. And then there's permits on the street. So if you want to park on Essex Street in downtown Boston, you have to have moving van permits, and that's the same for Somerville and Cambridge as well.
So it's not just a matter of showing up and grabbing some stuff. This is
No.
a well planned out process.
Well planned out. And we like the more lead time that we can get, the better. Although it seems like we get short notices, but we would prefer to have a good amount of lead time if we can to get those folks moved and get things done. And there's not just, the standard furniture, the file cabinets and the chairs. You got cubicle walls and electricians that have to come in to disconnect.
Yeah, I was just going to say all that stuff has to come apart. Yeah,
got to come apart. The power, and then everything has to be understood that because it has to be rebuilt on the other side.
Is it a different crew on the other side?
It can't. Well, we cycle. We do what's called a cycle when we're doing an office move.
Yeah.
If as long as it's local, we basically floor load the truck to keep everything on wheels.
Mm-hmm.
And we start with what's called the case goods. So we're moving all the furniture first, and we're getting that in. Makes sense, right? You get all the desk and all those things in first. This is on a job where there may be desks and files and things like that. The cubicles are a different model. It takes a little bit more planning, and sometimes you have to have that in place prior to you moving in the rest of the computers and the crates, rental crates. So on a typical type of office desk move, we want to get all the case goods over to the site first and get them in place. So when we backfill with the computers and the boxes and crates and chairs, all those things are in place and in the office. And of course, it takes so much planning in advance to have the floor plans, the maps in place, color coding. Guys are visual, so we see the color, we see the label, we see the picture of how it's laid out. We're going, we don't even have to think. We just go there and do it.
So it was many years ago, and I don't know who did the move, but there was a company that was growing. We started in Walpole, Massachusetts, ended up on Broad Street. All I remember as an employee was we were told, put everything from your desk in a box on your desk. And then Monday we showed up at the new address and everything was exactly where it was supposed to be. It was hopefully it was you guys, because it was a really seamless, painless move. But there are times when you have to be aware of traffic, not foot traffic disruption, business disruption, right? Minimal disruption. You do a lot after hours in those cases?
That's correct, yeah. A lot of the office and industrial, or what we call O&I moves, will happen after hours. And because they don't want the foot traffic of all the people going across our path during the move, there's more chance of something happening when you have that kind of foot traffic. And sometimes we even have detail offices on the sidewalk when we're unloading from the sidewalk to cross the sidewalk to get to the building. In some cases, not all cases, we have to have a safety officer, a police detail to watch, the people that are coming across the traffic there, so we don't run into them with a desk or a file.
So that's why, somebody listening might think, moving, why, Kevin, did you use the word fascinating? This is why it's fascinating to me. There are so many intricacies and details. All right, George, we're going to take our second break right here. Everybody, we'll be back in about 1 minute with George Rohlfing.
You're listening to Winning Business Radio with Kevin Hallinan on W4CY Radio. That's W4CY.com. Don't go away. More helpful information is coming right up, right here on Winning Business Radio.
The YP.com website is your local search engine. If you're looking for a good restaurant, it can help you find the right one nearby with ratings and reviews. Or if your car breaks down, you can use the YP app to find the closest repair shop. Or maybe you're just looking for something to do on a Friday night. Well, it has great local coupons for all sorts of things in your area. No matter what, when, or where, if you're looking for something, YP Local Search can help you find it. So go to YP.com or download the app to search local, find local, and save local.
And now back to Winning Business Radio with Kevin Hallinan, presenting exciting topics and expert guests with one goal in mind: to help you succeed in business. Here once again is Kevin Hallinan.
Back with George Rohlfing of BTI, Brookline Transportation Company Incorporated. And I know, George, you do a lot of specialty moves. In 1990, you became a lab and science expert. You're also a corporate relocation specialist. Tell us about some of these more interesting moves. A couple that were intriguing to me is you moved a wind tunnel.
Yes, we moved the wind tunnel.
Incredible.
So it came from the Harvard Field Station in Bedford and went to Stanford University.
Wow.
And the wind tunnel was basically to take insects and put them inside the wind tunnel and study them and how they would interact and how they would, turn their wings up and down, to understand how they react to the wind that's, going against them, and how they could film them inside the tunnel. So there's so many things that are interesting in when we're moving. It's really, that's another thing that it makes me like what I do, is that interesting part of the research that the scientists do, and then our helping them get to their new location, onto their journey to their new site.
So everybody can go to labmovers.com and see some of these moves. Some of the pictures are pretty fascinating. You moved a Nobel Prize winner from MGH, Mass General, to Chicago. Tell us about that.
Yeah, Dr. Sostak, he's a Nobel Prize winner in medicine, and his area of research is telomeres. And I can't tell you what a telomere is. I can tell you that's his research area, because I always like to know what the scientist is doing that we're trying to help move, so I can have a better understanding of, what needs to get done and how I can help them accomplish that. But it was very interesting move, and going to the U Chicago was one of those locations where you can't get a truck in off the regular loading dock. You have to back in through the quad. You have to have a safety detail walk you through with the truck to get to the loading dock. So it's never like, oh, it's just you pull into the dock and you're there. There's always an interesting twist.
You may not have needed it for the butterfly collection, but some of this equipment you need riggers and cranes.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we did a 20,000-pound magnet lab.
Wow.
That went up to the University of Ottawa. The whole lab went, but one of the pieces was 20,000 pounds that had to be rigged up, get out to the truck, work with a team that we work with sometimes, and get those pieces of equipment out there. So some of it is, coordinating it with the right professionals and understanding the needs to get that equipment out to the truck so we can transport it to where it's going, and then work with the team there to get it off the truck and get it into place. We do some of that, but there are sometimes even we have to use a professional to help us accomplish what needs to be done for the lab. It could be craning in as well.
Yeah, I saw like a floor jack or a floor crane, and somewhere I saw an image of pretty big crane as well.
Yes.
What are some of the intricacies of a move cross border like Canada?
So there's a lot of different things that have to happen when you're coming from across border. When you're doing an international move, there's a thing called harmonized codes. So you can't just ship or import something into the United States without having the right codes and submitting that to customs, and have a customs broker clear that through customs before you can bring that either into the United States or export it out of the United States. And there's certain reasons for that. And being a known shipper, they know that our team at Unigroup at Mayflower, they have a good understanding of all of the processes when it comes to international relocations.
So you also moved a rare, I mentioned butterflies, a rare butterfly collection.
That was an interesting move.
Yeah, tell us about it.
So it came from UC Berkeley, and I happened to get the award while I was in Spain visiting my brother in Spain. He owns a home in Spain. He was in the Air Force for 25 years, and
Hmm.
he met his wife in Spain when he was stationed there. So he bought a home there. I
Nice.
be on vacation with him and my wife and my sister and some family members when I received the award. So I had to cut that short a little bit and fly to California. And we literally loaded thousands of butterflies. Of course, they were, specimens. They
Hmm.
weren't live
Hmm.
butterflies. They were specimens for the professor. And we had to pack those, load them, transport them.
Very fragile, I
Very
imagine.
fragile. Yes,
Yeah.
very fragile. He was worried about that. And of course, the crew was alerted to it. So how they handle things, that's part of making sure that when I'm on site on a project like that, whether it's in another state or another location, I make sure the crew has a good understanding of what needs to be done for the project, and I educate them in advance. And we even do training on site with them prior to actually doing a move like that. So loading it up, transporting it 3,000 miles, then it was going to the candle factory at Woods Hole Oceanographic Institute.
Wow.
I don't know if you know the candle factory, but that's when they used to bring in the oil from the whales and make candles out of it back in the day in Woods
Hmm.
Hole, way before my time. But
Yeah.
that's where the professor was moving to, that area of Hui. So we had to transfer everything off the truck at my warehouse in Hanover, put it on a smaller truck, and then drive it down into Woods Hole to get it offloaded into the space down there.
Yeah. That last part of the road going down right to Woods Hole is very steep for those that aren't aware.
Yeah, it's a tight area to get into. And in the whole move, only one stamen fell off one butterfly.
Wow.
So and of course we used air ride equipment that's
Mhm.
specialty for the trailer to make sure that it's taking the bumps, if you will, across all across the country. And everybody on the team was fantastic, from start to finish to make sure we got it done, in the time frame that we needed, and including the team at Woods Hole. The facilities guys there were great. The help that they provided to us.
So a fair amount of this specialty work comes through. You said you won the award through a bid process, RFPs, RFQs, something like that.
Yes, that's correct. RFPs and RFQs. So we're always on the lookout for projects that like this.
Mm.
If somebody is looking for a move and they're submitting or putting out an RFP or an RFQ, we want to try to answer that and be part of the bidding process so we can get the details down and present our best case scenario for that particular move.
All right. There's one interesting one I'm supposed to ask you about, but for now, I want to ask planetary science move and the metal research moves.
So planetary science move was an interesting one because it came out of the basement.
These planets are big. I mean,
yeah, planets are big. So the professor, the scientist was looking at how projectiles would hit the Earth. And they had what's called a blast containment system. So they had a 40-foot barrel that looked like a gun barrel, all steel. And this was in the basement of a building over in Harvard University in the basement there. So everything had to be craned in. So everything had to be craned out. But basically they would shoot a projectile down this 40-foot barrel at different speeds, and they would film it blasting into a planet, if you will,
right.
and the planet exploding, and they would film it to see what would happen if, God forbid, something would come down and hit the Earth.
Wow.
So that was the research. So we had to pack it all up, crane it all out, put it on a flatbed, and deliver it out to California for that particular scientist.
So something like that, is that going to go out a window? Is that going to go up a stairway?
There was a hatch in the ground so that the folks over at Harvard opened up the hatch. We had to back into the quad area there again. And then the crane would pick up we had to, in addition to the containment system coming up out of the basement, we had to turn it because it came out flat. We had to turn it up like this. So it could make it out through the hatch and we could get it out. And then again, tip it again so we could lay it flat back onto the flatbed.
So what is the skill set? And it's got to be difficult. What's the skill set and who takes a look at that move and says, yeah, here's the way it's going to happen, almost choreographing that?
Well, usually I'm working with a team that would do something like that because we use known professionals that we've worked with in the past that we trust to crane out something like that. And it's important to understand that when you're asking myself to do a lab move, I have a plethora of companies in addition to my company that I work with that can assist us to help the lab get the job done. Instead of them reaching out to 40 different people to help them with different things, I can be the coordinating person that can help that lab get things done.
And two more, the Einstein to UC Davis move.
Yeah, that was an interesting project, going down to Einstein Lab in New York City and having to pack everything up, bring everything out, put it onto our special commodities fleet, and then have the special commodities fleet take that to UC Davis. And then, of course, I fly out, I meet the team there, and then we unload into the lab. And sometimes some of my teammates here in Boston will travel with me to those projects because we have a working knowledge of what the lab needs to have done. And several times, including Dr. Sostak, they were so, glad to see me on site because I knew what we were doing in the project. And some of it's like you have an anaerobic chamber or you have a mass spectrometer as part of the move. They want to know it's handled a certain way, and they know that they can trust me to get it done. And they're really glad that they have one point of contact during this type of project that can be there for their move.
All right, there's one more I want to ask you about because I think there's a story behind this. At least I'm told there's something interesting. Boston Public Library's piano and noodles.
Well, the noodles is something different. I'll tell you about that. But the Boston Public Library, we've been doing work at the Boston Public Library for over 25 years. And part of their needs, if you will, is they have a hall that sometimes the concert pianists will bring in their own piano. So we have to get the piano off the stage and into storage at the Boston Public Library and get that in place before that happens. And then again, move it back. But when
they should just bring guitarists in.
When we were doing the McKim building, when they were doing the McKim building over, if you know the two buildings at there's the Johnson building, which is the newer section of Boston Library.
Okay, yep.
The McKim building, which is the older section of the library. When they were doing the renovation, we had to take all of the material out of the stacks in the basement and on some of the floors, bring that over to the Charlestown Armory, including Continental Congress records and all types of material. But the one thing that they put a police detail on was the comic books, because they had first edition, Superman, Batman, and all the comics. So a police officer rode in the truck with us to go deliver those to the location. So the Boston Public Library has many, many things, and it's a beautiful library. If you haven't been there,
it is,
it's worth going and seeing some of the things there. George Washington on Dorchester Heights. So we moved the painting of George Washington in the Washington room. We had to take it down, pack it up, move it over to the Charlestown Armory. Then we brought it back after they did the renovations, help hang it back up.
Wow.
That's a fascinating piece of art if you've never seen it.
I've not. I'll try to see it. All right. So tell us a bit more. Who needs your services? You've described a lot of different things. So clearly labs, universities, what other types of businesses, and then even residential?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different aspects that we touch, if you will, with our moving services, because there's such a breadth of things that we do when it comes to moving. So, for example, I was with Dr. James Weiss today over at Nest Bio. They have a new site that they're developing in Charlestown, and that's incubator space. So it's not the smallest incubator space, but he's got some, a brand new facility over there that is beautiful. So if you're a scientist and you need space with all of the equipment and all of the stuff already there, they can do that. And we just move over your freezers or your contents and your computers and things like that. Then you've got the expanding bio labs that are growing that need to get everything over from one space to another. And they need us to plug in their freezers to keep keep the contents inside the freezers. So we have a truck with a generator, and the generator powers the electricity, and we have a backup system that's built into the truck. So if we need to, we can grab that power and keep the items cold as we're transporting them from one point to another.
I don't know if it was that one or another move, but I saw where there were some really close tolerances and very low temperatures that you had to maintain for certain things. One was like minus 30 or something like that. Fahrenheit.
Minus 80.
Minus 80.
Minus 80. The typical freezers that you'll find in a lab is minus 80, minus 20, and then 4 degrees Celsius, which is like 39 degrees Fahrenheit.
So they cannot lose power.
They cannot lose power. They have to be powered. And during that move, there are tolerances, and we have data systems that monitor that. If for some reason, and because it is a piece of equipment, they can fail. They can fail even during a move for some reason. They're just some of these freezers are 20, 25 years old.
Yeah.
It's not that they fail because we're moving them. They just fail because they're 25 years old.
Yeah.
So sometimes we have to have backups to that as well. If we have something that old, we usually recommend a backup in the truck already up to temperature in case something happens like that.
I wasn't as finicky about moving at 25 now that I'm over 60. Yeah, I get it. So maybe 25 is 60 in freezer years, right? All right. You're very active in your trade associations. You're actually at today the offices of Mass Biotech. Tell us about that affiliation. You're a member of Mass Biotech.
Yes, here I am at the Mass Bio Hub. And they have space available for those that are members that can use the space when they're in the Kendall Square area. So that's where I am, over at Kendall Square. And the affiliation that it was something that was a progression of our business as we understood the need to get our name out there and to be part of the community of people that we're working with, so they know that we're vested in the community as well. So we felt Mass Bio was the best place to be for us, so they can see us as a forward-thinking company, training, learning, finding new things, understanding new things, and being part of the community in the Cambridge biotech area, Boston biotech area.
And for those that don't know, Kendall Square is really one of the key hubs for life science, biotech, et cetera.
That's correct. Yeah.
So last question, that went quickly. Why tell the people in the viewing and listening audiences why they may want to reach out to you, and the best way to contact you. We put in the scroll. There's an email address and a couple websites there.
I mean, you should reach out to myself or Jared or Jordan at our companies, because we care. We care about your company. We care about your goods. And there are times when we're moving, in addition to the equipment, we're moving the staff, we're moving the people. As part of the relocation package, we bundle it all together. Being part of the Mayflower system, we can put that all together. We just did a relocation recently from Maryland to Massachusetts, where we moved the lab and we moved all the scientists and the research team that came along with it. So we care. That's one of the reasons why. Nice. And you have a trusted professional that's interested in making sure that your move is going to go as smooth as possible. and that we're going to get you to your final location without the hassles that you might find with other companies. We can handle just about anything.
Outstanding. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate you being here.
Thanks, Kevin. That really went by fast.
It does. It really does. Thank you. I'll talk soon. Hang on just for a minute. And for everybody else, thanks for listening and watching. This is a show about business and business challenges. If you've got concerns about the growth of your company, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn or Facebook. You can find me at Winning Business Radio. One of my many email addresses, kevin@winningbusinessradio.com. Our company is Winning Incorporated. We're part of Sandler Training, and we develop sales teams into high achievers and sales leaders into true coaches and mentors. We're not right for everybody, but hey, maybe we should have a conversation. Thank you again to producer and engineer Juan for another job well done. Be sure to join us in 2 weeks on Monday, November 4th. I'll be traveling next week. We'll have a repeat show playing on the 28th. But on the 4th, my guest will be Richard Blank. He's the CEO of Costa Rica Call Center. Until then, this is Kevin Hallinan.
You've been listening to Winning Business Radio with your host, Kevin Hallinan. If you missed any part of this episode, the podcast is available on Talk4 Podcasting and iHeartRadio. For more information and questions, go to winningbusinessradio.com or check us out on social media. Tune in again next week and every Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time to listen live to Winning Business Radio on W4CY Radio, W4CY.com. Until then, let's succeed where others have failed and win in business with Kevin Hallinan and Winning Business Radio.